All right. Hi, guys. I'm dying here. I'm eating some Hershey's Kisses and the chocolate's melting in my throat, so Tyson's going to talk to you.
So I was violently ill yesterday, and I had to call into work sick, and I never get. I kind of was like, why the hell what happened? So I poured myself a cup of coffee, and then the creamer that I was using was super chunky, and that was the creamer I was using yesterday morning. So I don't know, did I use it without noticing, or was it on the cusp? I want to say that it was on the cusp, and I just got sick from it. But check your fucking creamer's expiry dates. Just FYI, or you will get violently ill and want to kill yourself and feel terrible all day. And as soon as I puked, I felt better. It was weird.
Well, on the plus side, I have Hershey's Kisses. They're carrot cake kisses. They're unbelievable.
That's new.
Yeah, I saw them at the grocery store the other day. They're really nice. So I just had one of those. It's good. Yeah, violently ill. Yeah, I haven't got sick for a while. I got sick twice last year. I was getting the flu shot at work because they kept offering it. I don't know if they offered it but I didn't have it this year. I got the flu twice last year. The last time I got the flu was back in 2000, but even that wasn't the flu. I had tonsillitis. So it was weird. I got really cold one day, and I was on the couch shivering, and wife, come cuddle with me. And she was so happy because normally I'm very tactile defensive. I'm like, don't touch me. And I was like, I need your warmth. I'm so happy. As I'm dying on the couch, shaking, she's just like,
This is the happiest moment of my life.
Yes. Yeah. Sicknesses. I have a pretty good immune system too.
It sucks when you do get sick because it kind of just comes out of nowhere and just wrecks your.
Yeah. I open at my job. I'm kind of one of the first people in the building, so I kind of have to go into my job regardless how I feel. And then I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling well. Now I'm going home. I would really love to have that kind of job where I could just call in, wake up 6 o'clock, be like, nope, not feeling it today. Hey, not coming into work, and everything's taken care of.
Yeah. See, the nice thing about not being management is you kind of have that leniency. As long as you kind of know your day and can kind of plan it out and reschedule everything, my job's pretty okay when it comes to that. Obviously, things can come up, but most of the time we work as a team. So, if I can't step in, usually somebody else can kind of step in. So, and it works.
That's fair.
Yep.
That is fair. Nice. Yeah. Everything else is good?
Yeah.
Feeling better today?
Yeah. Oh, much better. I got a decent night's sleep and didn't have any of that damn creamer this morning.
All right. So good night's sleep, coffee, carrot cake kisses. Yeah. I think we're ready to go on an adventure. Call up Bilbo Baggins because we're going to go fight us a motherfucking dragon.
Did we actually fight?
We're not.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think
there's no dragon in this game. No, I was just trying to be cool. There's not even rings. That's the other Game Boy games. Yikes, this was terribly planned out. Our marketing team at Podtendo is just awful.
Yeah, they really suck. It's almost like they just shoot from the hip all the time.
Yeah, atrocious. Yeah. But without further ado, let's go on an adventure, maybe.
Down with Zelda from the very start. I got the heart, it's Mars to play the part. Down with Zelda. Creeping through with an overhead view, cause a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. So I stay on track, collect the facts, never cut the slack, and I always watch my back for Jack. Down with Zelda, yeah. Strong I stand, I'm the man with the plan, cause the power's in my head and the power's in my hand. Down with Zelda.
Welcome to the Podtendo podcast, where we analyze, reminisce, and replay the glory of old Nintendo games. We can be contacted on Twitter at Podtendo Podcast, email us at podtendo@gmail.com, or check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Podtendo. I'm your co-host Mick, and I'll be joined every episode by my
co-host Tyson.
Hey, co-host Tyson. We should come up with better names. Co-hosts are very boring. We should call ourselves something like Supreme Beings or something.
I always enjoyed the term Chancellor.
Chancellor. I am Chancellor Mick. This is Chancellor Tyson.
Just sounds very official. What do you do? I don't know. I'm a chancellor. I do everything.
I chancel a podcast. Yeah. So I have turned my volume down a little bit so I'm not sucking in my big booming voice, so that when we go to upload the audio that you hear Mick yelling at you and then you're talking normal. Clearly he doesn't have a super microphone that's sucking in everything. So I'm hoping that this volume is a little bit better.
That's fair. I also I've been moving my mic slowly closer and closer, hoping to kind of clear up any sort of the background noise and just make myself a little bit louder because I talk generally fairly quiet.
I'm in a bigger room today, so I think if there might be like a little bit more of kind of like that white noise, that's the problem. I was finding before I was laying in bed and kind of surrounding myself with pillows and blankets and being really comfortable. Today I was just, I'm going to sit out in the living room.
That's fair.
Yeah. I have just a quick side note before we start today's game. Do you want to talk about the Game Boy and go over some quick stats and just kind of our experiences with the Game Boy? Or do you want to save that for potentially if you wanted to do like a top 10 Game Boy games? I think at this point, we've already kind of talked about a Game Boy game before. So up to you. What are you thinking? What are you feeling?
We don't really do a lot of the top 10 or top 5 lists. That's kind of like a one-off every now and then. So, I mean, if we kind of double dip into that, that's fine. We can talk about it here as well.
All right. So we're playing a Game Boy game today. Maybe it's our first game. I have no idea. I'd have to look back at our episodes. This might be our first Game Boy game. No, Kirby. We played Kirby.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah. Totally.
Okay. So, So, Game Boy. Here's some fun facts about our favorite handheld title. It was released July 31st, 1989. It was discontinued March 23rd, 2003. That's 14 years the Game Boy was in our life.
It's pretty amazing.
It had 8 kilobytes of RAM built into the original brick, the big gray brick that you would see. Now, to answer a question that Tyson posed earlier, the NES and Game Boy had very similar system powers. The pixel capabilities were greater on the Game Boy. The limitations were basically what the screen could do. So that's why you saw the Game Boy Pocket, you saw the Game Boy Color have a little bit more, they seemed a bit more rich, a bit more fleshed out, because they actually could, in theory, have more pixels. Later Game Boy games seemed like they were a bit better off or a bit stronger than, say, the NES games because they were more impressive. So it was a limitation of the software. So the NES games were kind of limited by what you could do with the chips, whereas the Game Boy games kind of and had basically had more powerful chips that were smaller than smaller cartridges.
Just an advantage of kind of coming later on and having better technology.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look really, like, if you got an NES game and you opened it up, the chip inside is like it's not very big. Like, in theory, it could almost fit inside a Game Boy game, right? Okay. And they say that, wasn't there something about how microchips have been, like, shrinking and shrinking, like, almost every 5 years they're halving in size for like the same power output or something?
Something like that. There's a certain law, the guy that kind of figured it out. But yeah, it's basically they double in strength and shrink half in size every 5 years or something along those lines. Yeah,
I think that was my kind of. But yeah, it'll go to a certain point, because at a certain point it basically is like, well, it's too small.
Yeah,
like it needs to be a certain size, right?
You can't actually work with it if it's microscopic. It becomes too much of a hassle to actually do that. So, and it doesn't really add any beneficial power or any benefits to it.
Which is weird though, because it looks like, because nowadays all games outside, well, I guess DS still chips and like the PS Vita, but all consoles, because they have more memory. But if you look at a computer is all microchips. It has, like, a computer is not just a bunch of disks and disk drives or anything like that, right? So,
well, I mean, a computer does.
Is it something about the chip has a better processing speed and can process things faster, whereas a disk has more space?
Well, basically, the chip would control how fast it kind of reads through data, and like the disk would hold all the kind of space. So I'm not 100% sure how the NES was lined up. My understanding of kind of how chip architecture works, and this is really, like, I haven't taken any classes on this stuff, so this is a very, very rough overview. But basically, you got like the chip, like the processor chip, and that's kind of the brain that runs through all the data as fast as it can. And the RAM is kind of like sorting all the data for the chip to run, and they're generally pulling information from a hard drive. So, and then you get to the actual like BIOS, which is the actual like software that runs and really, or I shouldn't say BIOS, like the actual like software kind of part of it. I don't really know. I'm not the greatest at this stuff. But basically, the software will kind of read what's on the disk and weigh information, and literally the processor handles all that stuff. So the making or telling or reading what the data says onto the computer and talks to kind of the software, and the software tells it what to project onto the screen, and that's kind of how it works. That's really rough again, but that's my understanding of it.
Huh. Weird.
Yeah.
I just assumed there was little men in my TV that played sports for me.
No, there's no pushing and pulling, unfortunately, or no gears and levers.
Just well, there you go. There's our 10-minute pre-rant. We kind of did an intro already, though. That's told who I'm. Chancellor Mick, Chancellor Tyson.
Yep.
Today's game, the adventure that we're going on, we're not just looking at weird chips and how do computers work. Yep. That's actually not the adventure we're going on today. Today, we get to look at The Legend of Zelda: A Link's Awakening. Kind of fun. The initial release for this title was June 6th, 1993. They did have a DX, so a Game Boy Color version that was released December 15th, 1998. How Long to Beat has this game at 14 and a half hours. That's pretty hefty.
Mm-hmm.
The actual retail price was $39.99. A factory-sealed copy of this game would go for $470. Hot damn.
Jeez. It feels bad for even playing this game, then. Or opening my copy, like having the open copy at home.
Yeah. And then a used copy goes for about $15 on eBay. So I was like, that's a lot of money to just, if you had this game and didn't. I don't know why anyone ever opened an NES game. Yeah. Like, stupid, damn 90s kids wasting all this money.
Yeah, I know.
Again, who the hell's spending like $470 on a freaking game? Like, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
you know?
And I think it's one of those things where, like, that's the one rare collector, the guy's like, I gotta have it all, and I'm sitting on this pile of money that I'm slowly smoking every day. And you're like, can I have some of your money?
Like maybe like an AVG or something like that, or Angry Video Game Nerd, right?
Yeah.
Like someone like that. Yeah. Like those are those very kind of eclectic collectors, but you have to be able to reach out to them, right? So
for sure. And I feel like this is something that, like, if you put it on eBay, you might, like, well, I guess you have the whole world, so there's probably people all over the world that, you know, play this.
Yeah.
So who knows? Could be maybe a museum somewhere.
Suppose the Zelda. Yeah, I mean, there might be like a Zelda museum. Again, still not lamenting that we played this fun game before.
No.
eShop price, like always, the 3DS has it on their eShop for $5. It's good value. I'd buy it. Go play this game. It's fun.
Yeah, and for $5 you get a ton of hours to dump into a good game.
Yeah.
And it's basically like playing A Link to the Past, but on the go. It's fantastic.
It's funny you would say that, because in their development details, this game was actually it started off as a Link to the Past port for the Game Boy, but then developed kind of into its own game after they found there were some limitations and they couldn't do everything the Super Nintendo could do. So it's interesting that you would say that.
I may have done a little bit of research.
Oh, that's good. The game did start as an unsanctioned side project to test the Game Boy's capabilities. Working on game was like an after-hours club, so it was, again, unsanctioned. Guys weren't being paid. It was just kind of like, hey, let's see if you can throw something together. Let's see if you can port A Link to the Past to the Game Boy. Like, where are the limitations? Where can't they do? This was supposed to be sort of a spin-off game. This is why you see video game elements from other titles. So you get the Mario Goombas, there's the little anti-Kirby that's kicking around, there's Chain Chomps. It's not meant to be this kind of like unique world. And it's interesting that they say spin-off, even though it's canonically in the timeline.
Yeah, but Nintendo never had that planned out from the beginning. They were just like, let's make games. And then fans were like, but the timeline. They're like, what do you mean timeline? Like, it has to all match up. Okay, let's make this fit.
It's true. I guess they could have just said, like, look, we have got, like, these are the main canon stories. These are the not canon stories. We've got 6 main titles that will work on this timeline. Everything else is just goofy.
Yeah.
We really could have just done that one. Nintendo. Stupid. The game was designed to have kind of a Twin Peaks feel to it. So it's kind of goofy, off-the-wall, bizarro. Minaku Hamanon. And Kozu is Ishikawa, and the second one sounded better, composed the music of this title. Many elements of this game inspired Ocarina of Time. The fishing game and trading games are just some of the examples of that. And do you want to talk about the Game Boy printer?
I guess we can. It was
So the Game Boy printer was an attachment because the Game Boy, they decided they should make every attachment in the world for it. So probably in 95 or when did the re-release? Yeah, about 98. I remember the Game Boy printer came out. It was an add-on, so you could use your cable link cable, plug it into this little device that was basically a receipt printer, like you would see in kind of a store, and it would print colored pictures that you could take in certain games.
Yes, and I only had one friend that had one of these things because they were ridiculously expensive and didn't have a lot of value. But I remember there was something cool about Pokemon, like you print out the actual, like, oh, you're the actual certified champion. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Or like you could probably make stickers, because I think they just came out in little sticker forms. Like it wasn't even like it was like a printer like on a computer. It was literally like the size of a receipt that you would get from a till at like an old gas station.
Yeah, and they were still like that shitty thermal paper. So if you scratched it, it would just like actually make marks. I think I remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Yeah, I guess actually I don't know if it was ink or if it was thermal paper. Regardless, still, the Game Boy printer, there's a little photograph guy in the DX version. That's the version I played of this game, that will go around and take pictures. So you can print them off afterwards. Nintendo, always early on the cash grab. Like, people say they're bad now. Look at stuff like this. Like, this is bullshit. The fact they were selling Game Boy printers to kids that you needed to buy more paper and stuff like that. Like, who the fuck was buying this shit?
Yeah, they were trying to milk every penny out of this thing that they possibly could, because they were like, look, it prints money. Let's keep doing this.
But in terms of Link's Awakening specifically, if we look at the controls of the game, I would say the controls are pretty fluid in this title. The directional pad moves you. You can use items with A or B. It's kind of nice because you can actually switch any items. So you can have your sword on A or B, kind of depending on your gameplay. You don't even have to use the sword. You can walk around with the feather that helps you jump, or you can use the shield and the hook shot. You don't even. So it's kind of neat in that sense. But again, that was just kind of limited because the Game Boy had 2 buttons.
And there was a lot of little fun combos that you just kind of learned by just messing around with them. And you need them to actually kind of progress some of the story, which is awesome.
Yeah, there was that dash jump. So if you had the Pegasus boots and the rocks, you could actually jump over larger gaps. And that was actually like a necessity. Bomb arrows. If you hit the bomb and the arrows on both buttons and hit at the same time, you put a bomb on an arrow and then shot it.
Yeah, that was very handy. That came into play a couple times that were actually necessary in the game. So I think maybe once for sure.
Yeah. And then finally, there was a cheat that if you exit a screen and hit select, it will actually warp you to the opposite side of the other screen, and it's a complete game-breaking hack. I've played through the game once like that, and there's no obstacles. Basically, you need no items, and you can come close to beating like over half the game without actually doing like the necessary kind of starting points. So,
wow, I did not even know that was in there.
I don't think it's in the DX. Like, you would need an original copy. So, because you can't buy it on the eShop, you'd have to actually have the original cart and play it that way.
But good news is we do actually have the original, so score for us.
Do we?
Oh, yeah, totally.
I think I have one. Like, I bought one after the fact. I don't know where our original copy is when we were kids.
I think it's still there. It's just tucked away in the back because all of our freaking N64 games are, though. That's where like our Game Boy games are, so... There's a bunch there.
All right, next time you go home, check it out. Look, you'll be surprised because I'm pretty sure I have a copy because I bought that Pokemon Blue. That's all with all my Game Boy Advanced games. Yeah. But I think you'd be hard pressed to find our original copy.
I know there's Metroid 2 kicking around there.
Shibbity doop. Oh, maybe that's a game we should play at some point. Yeah, maybe not.
Nah, it's too squeezed in. Screw that. We'll play, if we're gonna do it, we should do the fan remake of ARM2, another Metroid remake, AMR2.
Okay.
And it's basically just some fans remade it, and Nintendo being Nintendo took it down because they're like, you're stealing our property, and they're like, you guys haven't done anything with this poor game. It's been just like shunned, and it got a poor port, and it was squeezed down, and the game was actually good. It just fans kind of redid it, and they took it down.
They would, because like ROMs exist of all these. They don't have any issues with it.
Yeah.
In fact, they built a game that was a ROM maker for Mario.
Yeah. Well, Nintendo's kind of flip-floppy on those kind of things. I feel like it's one of those that time of day. However, if you are interested, you totally can find it out there. It does still exist, like anything on the internet. So.
Internet's a cool place. First memories of this game, as mentioned before, this was the Christmas of the notorious Talkboy pen. So Game Boy, Link's Awakening, and Kirby 2. So with that, I don't remember getting very far the first couple times I played it. It was a bit of a struggle, definitely an adventure, not super hard. I was just kind of a dumb kid, for lack of a better term. It took me a while to figure anything out in this game. It wasn't until my friends and I started playing it, I want to say in the 6th grade, that we were able to wrap this title. I remember we'd play it, and like the second level boss or something like that, he's invincible when he has this jar, so you'd sit there and attack him, and after 10 minutes you're like, oh, this is just, like we got our ass kicked. I'm like, what the hell happened? Oh my god, he's in a jar, you could throw the jar against the wall and kill him. So kind of like those cool moments when we were kids.
Yeah.
And this was pre-internet, so...
Yeah, no, this is one of those things where, like, you would struggle, and then you'd literally lend it to a friend and be like, I don't care, I can't beat that freaking game. And then they would be like, hey, man, I got to this certain point and I'm stuck. And you're like, oh, no, you just do this. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then, like, they'd come back and like, I'm stuck at this certain part. And you're like, wait. How'd you get past that? And you're like, oh, you just do this one thing. And you're like, oh, my goodness. It makes so much sense now.
90s kids problems.
Yeah.
No internet. You had to figure shit out yourself.
Yeah, and unless Nintendo Power had the solution, you were screwed. And most of us didn't have Nintendo Power.
Called Hotline.
Yeah, and I've done that a time or two.
How do I get the horse in Ocarina of Time?
That is the exact story that I was thinking about.
I called the hotline to get the horse.
So
and then your mom was like, you paid $12 to find out the fucking horse? God damn you kids.
Yeah. Hey, it wasn't on our TV. Like, the mom's okay with it. So it was on our friend's phone, not theirs.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's fine.
Yeah, good. Moving along, we've got a story to look at, and then we're right into the game or the level notes, so that's exciting. So without further ado, Mr. Announcer, who's definitely not just me with music underneath, the story.
Months have passed since you defeated Ganon. The land of Hyrule lays in peace. All is good, but people are still concerned. What would happen if Ganon was to rise from his ashes? What evil things could come? Ever vigilant, you decide to journey away from Hyrule on a quest for enlightenment, in search of wisdom that would make you better able to withstand the next threat to your homeland. Months of difficult travel pass. After a long and fruitful voyage, you breathe deep to the sea's prey from the deck of your ship that carries you home to Hyrule. But your homecoming was not to be. Suddenly, a squall struck your ship. Though you valiantly fought the waves, a lightning bolt reduces your ship to splinters. Your world fades to black as you sink into the darkness of the storm-tossed sea with the remaining of your craft. But in the cold darkness of the deep, you hear a comforting voice that reminds you of home. It was the voice of Princess Zelda. "You're going to be all right," the voice says. What a relief. You wake up to find that it was not Zelda. A young girl named Marin is caring for you on a beach. She says, "Shh, listen, do not worry. Awaken the windfish, and all will be answered." What is the windfish, you wonder, and what did its awakening portend? Your most mysterious adventure yet, following the riddle of the windfish through the uncharted island of Koholint, is about to unfold.
Wow, what a great story. I always say that, and I always feel like I'm pandering a little bit. I'm like, oh, poor guy.
Yeah.
He's trying his best.
He is. He does do a good job.
Wow, what a great story. I mean, it's not because like I'm recording it like at a different thing like that, and I'm not really exactly sure what I say, because sometimes I say weird stuff. I mean, the announcer says weird. Oh God, it's falling in on us. They're on to us, Tyson. Run for it.
Just drop it and let it go. On to the level notes.
So we start off. There's a bit of a story in the intro, so you actually have to start the game up, let it play. It shows this ship at sea. There's a big storm. Link's at the mast holding onto a rope when all of a sudden a bolt of lightning flashes and disaster. A shipwreck. It shows a big egg on top of a mountain, and then it says start. So we start, enter our name, Did I call myself something cool? I feel like I gave myself a cool name, but I definitely forgot what it was. So,
I always enjoy calling myself something hilarious. So when the people are like, "Oh, so and so, I'm so happy you're here," it's like you're the best, so and so. It's like it's fine to use like words like dick and butt in there. So. I didn't do it this time.
So glad that
I chose Link.
Oh, all right. That's boring. So basically, we wake up in bed. We get our shield. There's nothing really else to do in the town, so we want to head south to grab our sword. Now that you have your sword, you can cut bushes, kill enemies, defend yourself. And again, if you can explore around, basically the only place you're going to be able to go is to the fort. Oh, there's a heart piece right before that. Did you grab the heart piece?
Yes.
Perfect. Good. And then we're into the forest. In the forest, we're looking for a mushroom, which becomes magic powder, which becomes powder. You can then, there's a little raccoon that says, "Haha, because I'm here, you'll never be able to go forward again," or something. And you have to put the magic powder on him to turn him back into Mario.
Yeah, the guy that looks like Mario in this game. Just imagine Mario. We'll call him Mario.
Just basically Mario, yeah. We get past him and then we get the tail key. So that's the first key to get to the first. I think that's pretty much all we can do at this point with our current level of equipment. From there, we head kind of south back to the beach area where we found our sword. We'll get to the tail cavern. It's pretty straightforward for first level. I'm pretty sure even Child Mick was able to beat this level. I think I was able to get the shield, find my sword, figure out the trick with the mushrooms in the forest, and the magic powder. Then I was able to beat this level, and I think I got to level 2, and that was about as far as I ever got. That took me like probably a year and a half.
Yeah, I would say that like there was a long time where basically I would get to this point in the game, and that's where my game would just stay for forever. But the nice thing about it is I did actually, as a kid, it's kind of nice to go through the walkthrough and be like, wow, I actually nailed the entire trading game up. And so like I must have spent so many hours just literally talking to every single person and just dicking around and doing nothing. Where we got the entire trading game, because it starts where you find the shell in the one screen, and then you what the heck do you do with the shell? Do you give it to somebody? No, you don't find the shell. It starts with the Yoshi. And then you trade the Yoshi to the lady with the baby, and she gives you the bow. And they give the bow to the little bow next to the big bow, who will come to play later. And then we trade and then she gives you a can of dog food, and you give the dog food to the alligator, who gives you some bananas. And that's about as far as I could ever get in this game. Because I want to say that I really struggled with the boss in this level, where I would literally get the feather and then I would just not beat the boss, and I would just dick around in the game because I was always afraid of bosses as a kid. So that's just me as a child. I sucked.
Fair enough. So while you were talking, I definitely didn't leave and go get my Game Boy and turn it on to look at my levels. My name was Defux.
Nice.
Dufux. I really felt the podcast needed to know that I was Defux. I've also played another game where I was Facure. Faqer. Facure. It's French.
Right.
Defux and Facure.
Very nice.
I did it. All right. Shit, where were we? We beat the key cavern. Oh, we got to the key cavern. That's what we were doing. Yep. Or the tail cave.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we basically worked our way through it to the boss, Moldorm, who's also a repeating boss from A Link to the Past.
Mm-hmm. The item we get in this game, I think is a game changer. Mm-hmm. It's the rock feather. It allows you to jump in kind of the overhead view as well as the side-scrolling portions. So a lot of the parts in the dungeons, there's weird kind of Link kind of side-scrolling. So it's a kind of combination of 1 and 2 at this point. And honestly, it's amazing. I use it all the time. It helps with combat. It helps with exploring. It's one of the, again, just most revolutionary items I think I've seen in a Zelda game.
Especially since it was 2D. In a 3D game, being able to jump kind of doesn't really seem like a big thing. But on 2D game, being able to jump over certain enemy attacks, or jump over them, or jump over gaps, now all of a sudden you're like, wow, I have so much versatility, and it kind of gives you that, kind of makes you not feel so constrained by just the up, down, left, right.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of I guess in Ocarina of Time, or Twilight Princess, you get kind of the action command, so you can kind of strafe side to side and jump and do a jump attack. So it is kind of like, though, it just adds to the combat.
True.
We beat Moldor, get the first instrument, so we're collecting 8 instruments because we want to awaken the Windfish, which was the giant egg that we saw before the titles.
Yep.
It's a weird game.
Yeah.
Head back to the village though after this dungeon, and Madame Bow Wow's chain chomp has been stolen, so we have to go to the swamp to save him. We fight some moblins in a cave, get him free, and now we have access to the swamp dungeon. So the chain chomp bounces around. He's kind of big, kind of almost like the guy from Mario 64. Like, that's how I always kind of compare him to in my mind. And he eats enemies, he adds with combat, and he can eat the flowers that gets you into the second level, the Swamp Palace.
And it's nice having the Bow Wow around, because a lot of like walkthroughs and stuff will actually kind of try to get as much done as they can with Bow Wow, because he literally will just murder things like ghosts that are kind of a pain to deal with at earlier levels. So having him kick around is super handy. So it's almost worth.
So are you saying
not turning him in for, like, when you have to go for the walk again? Or sorry, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but this Bow Wow is awesome.
So you're saying you would get, like, some walk people would get they go to level 2, they'd get the item, which is the power bracelet that gives you the ability to pick up pots and rocks in the outside world. They'd go to the outside world and go around and collect items and maybe go to, like, the color dungeon?
Yeah, for sure.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah, it's a different way of doing it, but it, like, the Bow Wow just kind of he just murders things, like, because every couple seconds he'll just eat things. So it helps.
How did you find the difficulty of this?
Playing it again, it wasn't too bad, to be honest with you. It was like there'd be times where I get stuck in a level because you're like, I don't understand what I'm missing to get this stupid key to spawn, and I'm most of the time just looking for keys in dungeons, and that'd be the only thing that I get stuck on. So
for myself, I've beat this game probably half a dozen times, if not more. It's one of those things where I'll just kind of pick up. It's like a Mega Man 2 where maybe, once every 2 year I'll pick it up, run through it, no problem. I'll usually do that with Zelda. I'll play 1, 2, Link's Awakening, Link to the Past, maybe Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask every year, and then I'll kind of, like, not play them for a while. I don't get into, like, the Twilight so I'm quite familiar with this game, so yeah, I don't even think I used a walkthrough. I just kind of ran through this title.
That's fair. I've never beaten this game all the way through. It's just been forever because I haven't played it since I had a Game Boy Color. So
cool, fun. Well, I'm glad one of us is getting to experience it for the first time. So with that, we're in the Swamp Dungeon. This area is still, I would call it, kind of an introductory level. There are some switch puzzles, but most of it are all around lifting puzzles. There's that room with the bunny, skeleton, and bat, which is a real pain in the ass. So there's a stone tablet that says you have to kill the enemies in a certain order to get a key. And you can miss it. Like, you can miss it all the time. And I believe the order is you have to kill the bunny, and he's stuck in between these blocks, then the skeleton, and then the bat.
Yes.
Because, it's a motherfucker, man. Yeah. Like, that's a tough one.
Especially because, like, that bat loves to suicide himself into when you're tossing the, like, pot at the stupid bunny. Yeah, it's just a pain in the butt.
Yes, sir. The boss of this level, as alluded to earlier, was the genie. He's in a bottle, baby. You got to rub him the right way. He's invincible when the bottle's around. So what you do is the bottle comes after you, hit it, pick up the bottle, smash it. Once the bottle's dead, you can I go up to the top of the screen, and I'm trying to stay above him, and I just basically jump and slash him.
That's fair.
And 2 instruments down. Booyah.
Yeah, so far we're rocking and rolling.
Nice. This is one of those games where I definitely made notes. Sometimes I play games and I don't make notes, and I'm, like, trying to do the notes based on memory, because I have always funny little titles. This one is Head East, Young Hero. So with the power gloves, we can now head towards the east part of the map, which is wrong, by the way. No, that's right. I always get confused with left and east.
Oh, yes. Left
and east. I am just, like, with directions, I am terrible. You have to go west. I'm like, west? That's a hand, you fucking moron. Oh, shit. We find there's a big castle we can't access, so we have to go find the owner who lives in his little country villa. We help a monkey, collect some leaves, get a key, and that unlocks the next dungeon, the Key Cavern.
There is actually a fun little trick you can do at the shop in town. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, for sure. So, I think we uncovered this on our own, which was kind of neat. So the shop is, most shops you walk up, talk to a guy, he says, here's the items I have for sale. This one's a little different. How's the layout on this guy work?
So basically there's a bunch of items against the back wall, and he's sitting at his little cash register. And you can walk up and grab the item that you want to buy, and you have to walk up to him and talk to him. So if you actually like walk to the back of the room, he'll actually turn around. And we noticed this as kids, and we're like, oh, that's weird. They turned his back to the door. We could just walk out. Ha, 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 ha. So if you actually stay with him and, like, stare at him for, I think it's like 10 seconds or something, he'll keep his back to the door. And if you walk around him with his back to the door, you can just walk out and take the item. It's like, wow, you just got that for free. Hope you feel good about yourself. And then if you ever go back into the store, the shopkeeper would be like, I'll make you pay for it one way or another. And then he kills you.
Yes, and actually everyone in the game calls you thief after that point. So they stop calling you defux, and you become a thief. So, and it's considered a bad ending if you're called thief. They want you to call it by the right name. You have to be a good hero. So, but yeah, no, definitely kind of a cool little quirk to this title. And it's definitely a way of collecting shovel bombs early on. You can get the bow and arrow pretty easily because some of those items are expensive, like 980 bow.
Takes forever to get, but you need it for some area.
It's not super useful for the first part of the game, so you should be able to do it. I did it legitimately.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. I didn't try to grind for any cash, and I was just like, oh, I'll buy them when I kind of get them. And as I kind of had 200 cash, I bought the shovel, and then the bow and arrow shows up, and then as I kind of needed it, literally, I had just like 999, just maxed out my rupees for the very first time without grinding or anything, just by playing the game. And I went and bought the bow before I had to. Nice, this worked out perfect.
I'm interested if you maxed out, because I always max out in the exact same point when I play this title. So
okay,
if we look back at the Key Cavern, though, I would recommend a guide for this place, just because you can actually skip a large part of the level if you know the correct way to go. So as the title says, you need a lot of keys. At one point, you get to a kind of a room with 4 doors. 3 of the doors just take you to some type of puzzle that gets you another key that helps you unlock another door. So if you pick right, it's over, right? So I would say use a guide. It just kind of gets that extra little bit of the title. There's an easy mini boss that you need to kill with bombs. Oh yeah, those guys are here. You have to get used to kind of doing that running and jumping maneuver for this level. So there's 3 spaced gaps. You have to be able to use the Pegasus boots, which is the item, by the way. Yep. And as you're running, if you hit the roc's feathers, you kind of leap upwards of 3 spaces. So get used to doing that, or you're not going to be able to.
Yeah, and you get the Pegasus boots, which are the same item as you had in whatchamacallit, in Link to the Past. Yeah.
LTP, baby. LTP.
Yeah.
Is that right? ALTP.
And no one calls it a Link to the Past. It's always just Link to the Past.
It's true.
Then the boss in this is a giant eye that you gotta swipe until it becomes 2 of them.
You hit it. Is it swipe? I thought you had to run it with the boots.
No, you swipe at it, and then they slowly separate, and then you gotta charge it to separate them.
Really?
Right? Is that?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you cut it, and then there's just a little bit of
a gap.
Flesh hanging them together, and then you ram it with the boots.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And kill him. We're up to 3 items. Mm-hmm. Boom. Or 3 instruments. We go across the river. So now you can use the boots to gain access to the animal village. So there's these weird crystals that you have to be able to dash through. So you can use the Pegasus dash.
Yep.
You find a lazy walrus. You have to travel with Marin, who's kind of the love interest of this game. Not Zelda. It's Marin. Fight some worms in a desert and get a key. Now you can head to the mountain and gain access to the Angler's Tunnel. So what you don't want to do is go to the tunnel first and get all the way to the keyhole and then be like, oh, look, I got these Pegasus boots. This is sweet. And be like, I don't have the shit. So don't do that.
Yeah. There's also a cute little, like, in this game, you can actually get, with the Game Boy printer, you can actually get kind of scenes taken in this game. And if you walk with Marin to a certain point in the game that kind of has no value, it will actually show a little screen of like you and Marin looking out over the water, and it'll be like a little picture. It's kind of neat.
I don't know where any other pictures are. I think there's one of the Chain Chomp. So you can, when you walk by the Chain Chomp afterwards, a little camera guy will show up and say, "Hey, you want to take a picture with Chain Chomp?" And you go, it shows you and like the Chain Chomp standing beside each other, and all of a sudden the Chain Chomp just smiles, and then the picture is him chasing you and you running away, flailing your arm.
So there's that one. There's the one with them looking out over the water. There's the ghost. I like that one. We'll probably get into them. Well, we'll get them as we get along or whatever.
Those are probably the only 3 I know off the top of my head. At this point, this is where I started doing all my side questing. So we could talk about that quickly. So the trading card game, or the trading game, is Tyson. I have it. Yoshi doll becomes a ribbon, which becomes dog food, which becomes banana, which then becomes a stick. You get that from the monkey's bridge. Then you get a honeycomb, turn that into a pineapple, which becomes a hibiscus. I guess we could talk a bit more about these. So the honeycomb, Mario pokes off a tree with the stick. You take the honeycomb to the man on the mountain. Oh, no, to the chef in the animal village, who gives you a pineapple. You can give the pineapple to the little Luigi guy who's out of strength on the mountain, who gives you a hibiscus. You can give the hibiscus to Mr. Wright, who gives you a letter, which then you give to his girlfriend. She gets you a broom. You can then give the broom to the little sweeping lady in the village, who gives you a fishing hook, and that's basically where you have to stop for now.
Yes. I like, it's funny because I think it's a hippo lady that the one guy's like, "Oh, she's so beautiful. I'm so excited to see her." She's just this hippo lady, and he's just a regular human being. So, yeah, that's the thing in this game.
Yeah.
Yep. That sounds funny.
Sends a picture. I think it's like big, like so she kissed it and wrote like Christine on it, and it's just Princess Peach, and you're like,
yeah,
that's funny.
Catfish before catfish was a thing.
Straight up, that's 90s catfishing. We can also use our newly acquired Pegasus boots to go to one of the houses in the village, and we go into a bed, which takes us into a dream world, and we can kind of dash through all the enemy to get an ocarina. Kind of neat.
Yep.
And then the new addition to the DX, so if you weren't playing the DX version, you can stop listening to this next little bit. The Color Dungeon. The Color Dungeon is in the graveyard, as Tyson was kind of talking about earlier. It has several color puzzles, lots of those kind of flippy tiles, so you hit one tile and every tile around it will move or something. And the idea is to get all the tiles to be the same color. I have no idea what the strategy is. I just kind of smack them a bunch, and sometimes it works.
Yeah. I didn't like this dungeon. It's kind of a pain in the ass. I'm glad Julian's go here once.
Yeah, there's several mini bosses. They're not too. No, I just went in once.
Okay. Well, there's a way of doing it. So after you beat the
big electric thing, you use magic powder on it.
Yep.
It goes from green, yellow, and red. Red means death. You then talk to the fairy of blah blah blah, of clothing.
She just called the Great Fairy, I think.
Okay, and she has a blue tunic for defense or a red tunic for attack. So you can actually change from your green garb to either a blue or a red and have better attack or defense.
Yes.
I go with attack.
Me too.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, and then we are on to Telltale Heights and the waterfall.
Is that okay? Yep, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah. So this point, you there's a keyhole. You use the angler key that we got from the desert. To go into the Angler's Tunnel. Dungeon, really not that tough.
No, and I think the item in this game is the flippers.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Yes.
I'm glad they don't cost 500 rupees, right? A Link to the Past? Once you get the flippers, this area really opens up. So basically, it's a lot of little ledges around this water that you have to jump over. Obviously, once you can swim, you can just kind of cut through most of the screens.
Yeah, and the nice thing is you don't actually have to equip the flippers. They're just kind of like a thing now. You can just kind of go into deeper water.
Sure can. Remember to dive under where the four beams cross. So that was my only mistake. That's probably my first mistake playing this game, where I was like, what the fuck's that last key? There's four torches. There's a little swimming part. If you press B when you're in the water, you dive under, and there's certain little parts that will be like special areas or special items. So where the four beams cross, you dive under there, and you get yourself a key.
Yes.
With that, you should be able to beat the game. Then you fight the anglerfish. Honestly, the easiest boss in the game.
Yeah, it's pathetic how easy he is. I actually thought he glitched out or something. It's like, nope, he's just really easy. And you're like, huh, Well, that's depressing.
Yeah, super easy. You end up outside. I would recommend learning Mambo's Mambo here. So if you go over either to the left or the right, there's a bunch of these fish. You pull out you go to talk to them and say, hey, you got an ocarina, you want to learn how to dance? And you can do the little Mambo's Mambo.
Yep. And when we leave, I believe this is where the ghost starts following us.
No, I thought that was after Catfish Maw.
Maybe? I thought it was before Catfish Maw.
I don't know. Do I have any freaking...
Yeah, no, it's before. It's totally before. Because when you leave this cave, basically Ghost just shows up. And it's not a big side quest, but we kind of talked about it earlier. And basically, he wants to go to his old house. So he goes to his house, and he's all, like, depressed. He's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm not alive anymore. And then he's like, can you take me to my grave? And then you take him to, it's like a lonely gravestone next to one of the dungeons. And you take him there, and he basically goes into it. And I think that's about it. And then when you come back to it, or maybe it's before, but basically the little rat guy who takes your picture will come back, and it's just like Link standing next to the gravestone, and there's the ghost all happy. So you make him happy.
So that's just a random side quest that has nothing to do with the story, eh?
Yeah, no, not at all. And he just pops out of nowhere, I think. Like, it's literally after this, it's just like, yeah, he just follows you around.
I think you go into the house after you save and you do get a seashell. So there are seashells in this game, and you collect them. They seem like there's nothing. Right around the animal village, there's a seashell house. You go in there, every 5 seashells, you get another gift, which is a seashell. So if you collect 5, go get 6, collect 4 more, get 10, get 11, collect 4 more, you get to 15. I don't know when you get 20 exactly. I don't know if I wrote it down. But
there's 26 of them, so you can get it kind of whenever.
Yeah, so you get 20 of them, you go into the seashell house, you actually get the level 2 sword, which suits sword beam, as well as twice as powerful, so get that as early as possible.
Yes, and now this is kind of where I go back to the color dungeon, because technically you're doing times 4 damage than when you regularly would, because the level 2 sword does times 2 damage, and then the red tunic does times 2 damage, so you're doing times 4 damage. So what I do is to kind of make myself a little bit stronger, is I go and I get the blue tunic, so I'm doing -2 or times, or whatever, twice as much defense and twice as much attacks. Just another way of doing things as opposed to just being strictly on the attack side. But you have so much health in this game, it's kind of doesn't matter what you want to do.
Yeah, like I could beat this game regularly, so I was just kind of using the level 2 sword, which I think the first time I beat the game I didn't have. And the red tunic is I'm just super powerful, kind of fly through everything. So
yeah, that's the nice thing, is nobody lives to that.
Yeah, and actually maybe your strategy is not terrible too, because some bosses you need special items to kill.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what your attack is, right?
Yeah. And there's a couple enemies, I forget which ones, but they do a shit ton of damage, and if you have the level 2 level 2 damage, they don't do nearly as much. So I forget which ones they are, though, to be honest. It's been a while since I've played this game, a couple weeks now.
Yep, that's where I'm at. From there, though, we can go to the 4th dungeon, which is the Catfish Maw. So in the middle of the lake, you go into the lake, there's this big catfish. Because we have the flippers, we can just kind of dive underneath the water, get to the entrance. You almost find the item immediately, but then it's stolen by a skeleton, and his name's like Captain Skull or something.
Yeah, I think it's Skull.
You chase him down throughout the level to get back the hook shot from him. So the item of this level is the hook shot. Nothing really new. It's kind of the same hook shot we know from the last couple of games. I would recommend going and buying the bow and arrows from the shop at this point before continuing into the dungeon, because there's a chest that gets you, like, I always have about $700-800. It's a $200 chest. It maxes out my money, and then I'm good. So is that the same point where you got the bow and arrow for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And
okay.
That basically like you just leave and just kind of go buy a bow and arrow and come back.
So assuming you don't spend too much time on the side quests, so like the fishing game, but the fishing game's only $50, the game is almost perfectly designed to get you 980 rupees at this time.
And a lot of like there's not a lot to spend on it, so I mean, unless you're going and buying hearts, just go grind it in a field or whatever. So
yeah, okay.
And there's enough fairy fountains to. I never died in this game, to be honest with you. So I don't know how I just struggled as a kid. I think we just sucked at video games.
Hand-eye coordination. You know what? I don't know about you, but like my 3DS, the little joystick, the little control stick, makes controlling some of these games, these older games, so much easier than like the old D-pad on it, because it seems like, I don't know, you're very grid-based versus this one, you're very kind of so.
Yeah, and moving at a diagonal is very key. Fair enough.
The boss of the Catfish Mall was the slime eel. Use the hook shot to drag him and kick his butt.
Yep.
Upgrade. Oh, okay. So at this point, this is where I got the level 2 sword, if you haven't already done it. And then you go to the face shrine. You fight the jumping knights. You collect the face key, which is good to enter the face shrine. And you also learn of the ancient prophecy that the whole island of Koholit. Look, we said the title, the island of the game, internet, so don't be mad. Don't be mad, bro. Koholit is actually just in the mind of the dreamfish, and if the dreamfish awakens, the island and you will disappear.
Yep.
So I guess we forgot to mention that all the bosses are actually called nightmares. So the nightmares that are haunting the windfish, and we're trying to kill the nightmares and rescue the instruments to waken him up. So there's a theme of awakening throughout this. It's Link's awakening. There we talked about, we're analyzing.
And there's a lot of people talking about like, don't wake up, but Marin's very much for waking up the windfish, and some people are like, oh, don't wake up the windfish. It's very interesting. You can also grab the boomerang, which is kind of neat, but you have
Can
to
you get the boomerang here?
Yeah, before you kind of go to the dungeon, if you work your way down to the actual like first beach where you get your sword, if you bomb one of the walls, you can talk to a little like guy inside, and he'll swap you an item for another item. I got rid of my shovel because I don't really use it all that often, and grab the boomerang. And the nice thing is the boomerang does like twice as or times 2 damage, just like the sword. So you don't even need to play upgrade the sword. You just need to get the damn boomerang.
There's a really cool combo you can do later in the game. I'm going to talk about and see if you know what I'm referring to.
Okay.
So headed to the face shrine. It's kind of up by the end of the raft game. I didn't have any trouble in this game. I went through it without any difficulty. I went to the left, solved all the puzzles, got the item, which is the level 2 power bracelets. Now we can lift things that are as big as a whale. I then headed to the right to solve the rest of the dungeon. It was pretty straightforward. The boss was Facade. For some reason, we have to use bombs to kill him. So I think it was a giant face. Maybe it's Fastcade or something. It was a giant face in the floor. You had to like drop bombs on his eyes to kill him.
Really easy boss.
Yeah. Weird that we didn't pick stuff up and throw. Like, why? Why bomb?
And it was one of those
Did you
things
ever
where
run
it's like, we haven't really like, there's never like once hinting. I guess they do kind of hint about bombs a couple times in the dungeon. So I guess it kind of makes sense. But it's weird. Usually like you beat the bad guy or beat the boss with the item you pick up in it. It's like, oh, you get an item where you can pick up and throw things. It's like, here, use bombs. You're like, I didn't need this item. Like, no, you need to solve puzzles. That's it.
Did you ever talk to the Mad Batter in this? So that little guy that you throw magic powder into, and he says, haha, I'm going to curse you. Pick one of these items, and now you're going to double. Okay, so I think he did that in A Link to the Past, where he doubled your magic. Yeah. In this game, he gives you more arrows, bombs.
And he's totally like, curse you for waking me up. I'm going to curse you forever. Let me give you this upgrade. You're like, I don't understand how this is a curse.
Yeah, it's kind of just tongue-in-cheek. Yeah. So from here, we have to get the rooster. There is a maze we find Wart, who's interesting because Wart is the villain in Mario 2 when they're dreaming, and now Wart in the dream world. He teaches you a song to bring the dead back to life. We can go to the mountains, and we can rescue the flying rooster. With the rooster, we have to find the eagle key, and I think that's by the animal village.
Sounds about right.
Once we get that, we can head back up to the mountains to the Eagle Tower. So when we have the rooster following us, he's a little guy that when we pick him up, we just fly indefinitely around this. If you equip the boomerang and the power gloves, you can shoot the boomerang out, pick up the rooster, and the boomerang just circles underneath of you, and it becomes this. You're an invincible machine of death.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's really useless though, because like, where is there so many, like a screen with a bunch of tough enemies that you can't just kill norward? So
or boomerang, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so But I mean, it's kind of neat, I guess. It'd be fun if there was like a big boss rush or enemy rush area.
Yep. You
But
could cheat
alas-
your way with the rooster boomerang combo.
So Eagle's Tower, I remember getting here as a kid, and this was like really tough. Like this was a real stumper. It's a 3-floor dungeon. We find on the first floor right away, or the second floor, sorry, the mirror shield. It can deflect stuff, so our shield gets upgraded. There's a puzzle where you have a giant ball and you have to destroy the pillars, and you make the 3-story dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for some reason, like, it's really simple now. There's one little tricky bomb wall, but for the rest of it, it's no issue whatsoever.
Yeah, helps if you have a guide.
Oh, yeah. So, I flew through that. At the top, we fight the Evil Eagle. With the red tunic, this guy's really simple. You pull out the mirror shield when he flaps his wings so you don't fall off the ledge, and then just jump and do spin attacks. So you're doing ×8 damage to him. He dies really quickly.
Yeah. A boss that looks really, really tough, but if you handle him correctly, it's just a breeze.
So we're now, I think that's our 7th dungeon.
Yes.
We've got 7 instruments, 7 nightmares are dead. On to the next one. From here, we head right to the last dungeon. It's in the top left part of the map. We solve the puzzle in a cave, bring a turtle back to life with the Mambo song, kill it, and gain access. Now we're in Turtle Rock. So I would say this is a pretty tough area of the game. You really need to bring your A game to be able to survive. There are a lot of dead ends and passages that need to have been gone through in the right order. The item in this level helps you melt some of the ice blocks. So it's actually without the item, it's impossible. Use the map. Be very smart to beat this one. And again, the item is the magic rod. It shoots flames indefinitely.
Yes, and there is actually this dungeon is that kind of mini boss rush like there is in most games, where they're actually like you run into the mini boss it's not really a boss rush, it's more of a mini boss rush. You run into the guy that like rolls the thing and then jumps over it, and you gotta like remember how you beat all these guys. There's the whatchamacallit, there's the big snake that kind of goes around, or the water dungeon kind of bad guy, he's here. Yeah, it's kind of neat that when games do all these kind of throwbacks to older bosses, so you have to kind of like realize that these guys are just wimps and you're up for a new challenge. So it's interesting, especially considering a lot of this game you feel extremely powerful. Like I didn't feel that challenged in this game. I get stumped by a puzzle or two, but as soon as you figure it out, it's like, oh, okay, this is actually not hard. It's the puzzles that are difficult, not the actual like gameplay. So when it comes to this and you're actually having to like work your way through all the mini bosses kind of one after another, it's neat. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I found there's only one part that really stumped me here, and it was something, there was like a bombable wall that I was missing for the longest time, which led to a switch, and then the switch, when I hit it, I was able to go through and get a key or something.
Yeah, I sucked at those hidden walls because you're supposed to hold out your sword and tink it against the wall and it makes a different sound. I was usually watching TV or something, so...
Yeah, I played through this just a couple summers ago on a road trip to Winnipeg, because that's what we do in Canada. We just travel around the one road, and sometimes we go from Jasper to Winnipeg. So
the only road in Canada.
Yeah, and I think I beat this level, and it was by trial and error. So lots of the little puzzles that are kind of stumpers, like the bomb, those weird worms, you have to throw bombs in their mouth. I know that you have to do all the tossing from the top level to get the master's key. So all those little tricks for this level weren't for myself. So I again went through, or use a walkthrough, trial and error, or walkthrough. The boss of Turtle Rock is Hothead. He's a wimp. At this stage of the game, just spam your magic rod and he dies. Loose ends. I would finish the trading card or the trading quest game now. We use the fishing hook to get the necklace. So you give it to a fisherman, he gets you a necklace. You give the necklace to a mermaid. You get to go underwater and extract one for scales off her tail. We put the scale on a mermaid statue to open a secret door, and we get a magnifying glass. And you're like, that's a weird reward for this trading quest game.
Yep.
We actually need it because when you go to the library in town, there's a book of dark secrets that you can't read unless you have the magnifying glass. So the trading quest game is actually this game.
Yes, it's not optional.
Yeah, which is kind of cool, because sometimes like some of those side quests, you're like, well, that's silly. Oh, I got a brand new hat for my character. Yay. But this is, no, you literally can't beat the game without it. You get a completely random, unique code, so you actually have to, so that when we go to the final area, you know how to get through. We head up the mountain to the Windfish Egg. We play all the instruments with Marin's song that we've learned at some point. We fall down a pit, use the code from before, so the one that we got from the book, and fight the final nightmare. Here it is, end boss time. The first guy is a giant bot. Use magic powder. Then we fight Aghanim. Bounce his magic bat at him. Then we fight Moldorm. We attack his tail. Then we fight...
Yep.
We attack with our sword. Lamola, which we use magic powder. I have no idea what the fuck Minola is. I just have it written down. And then the last one is D-E-T-H-L. Deathful. Shoot his eyes with arrows and bombs. And it's over. A staircase appears, and we beat the game. Hooray!
Yeah.
How did you find the final nightmare?
It would have been nice to kind of know where all these bad guys were coming from. Like, you're like, okay, Aghanim, I get that one, and I get Ganon, and I get the snake thing. I always fucking forget its name.
Moldorm. Yeah.
But Lanmola and Denthi,
Deathful or something.
Yeah, it's like
yeah,
I don't really get it, but it was interesting. I mean, it wasn't anticlimactic, that's for sure. And then when the staircase comes down, it's kind of neat little end cutscene. So I enjoyed it.
Nice. Yeah, good. So then you go up these stairs. You talk to the Windfish. She says, "Thank you. You helped me awaken from my dream. The world will now disappear." A giant spout of water. You go flying off into the air, and you wake up in the ocean, attached basically the wreck of your ship. And then you look in the sky and you see a giant. Oh yeah, by the way, the Windfish. He is a giant flying whale.
Yeah, that has like doilies. It's very funkadelic.
Yeah, there are multiple endings in this game. I don't know if you're aware of that. So if you beat this game, if you die, talk to the Windfish, the island disappears, you wake up in the shipwreck, and you see the fish flying over. If you did not die, and you did not steal from the shopkeeper, it's exactly the same, but you see one of the seagulls flying away, and then it shows kind of an insert of Marin. Yeah, so that's kind of neat. So Marin was basically a seagull, or her soul became a seagull if you do things the right way.
She became free as well from the dream, maybe.
Yeah.
It's kind of a happy ending, especially because like she's really nice to you, and you can kind of tell that her and Link have this thing going on. So
yeah, so you kind of save her. You help rescue the love interest.
Yep.
Current thoughts on this title? I really like this game. It's very lighthearted. I enjoy the fourth wall breaking in it. The jump mechanic is so revolutionary. I absolutely love that part. If you had to wait to get the jump, I don't think I would play this game as often. They did a really good job with the item management system, even though it seems a little bit outdated, but for the system that they had, they did an excellent job. The dungeon are also quite simple, very short, and manageable.
Gotcha. I really liked it. I thought it was as a game that I played as a kid, I didn't realize how amazing it was because I never beat it. And now actually going back and replaying it and beating it, it's so fantastic. This game's great. It's got like a great sense of humor. There's a lot of like little things you can kind of get lost doing. Nothing really seems tedious. Like, I mean, I guess little puzzles can be frustrating from time to time, but I enjoyed the crap out of it.
Yeah, and that brings us to the end of our fourth Zelda game. The next Zelda game that we get to play is Ocarina of Time. Yeah, so it might be a while. I think I kind of want to try and do a bunch of Super Nintendo. Maybe we can look at the Oracle game at some. They're available on the 3DS. But yeah, basically we're up to the big bads in this series, so it's kind of exciting.
That's awesome.
This is gonna be a really weird. No, we'll talk about that afterwards instead of using that. Yeah, just don't worry about that, audience. A little, are you buying it? And we're good. So Link was in a coma, and the Windfish helped him out? Or did Link actually travel into the Windfish's dream and help him wake up from the coma? So is the Windfish some kind of weird dream god, or is he some type of sea-traveling god that helps people in shipwreck?
I think it's kind of the second one. I think the Windfish is kind of like a sea god, and if you can, it's kind of like a trial. So if you can prove your worth, you can live, and you can kind of get like, you wake up, you survive the wreckage of the night. Because I mean, there is stories of those people, like, you know, a plane or a ship going there, I guess a ship going down and people actually surviving it, and you're like, oh, I was just strapped and I don't remember, and I just remember waking up and we were above the water, and you're like, man, that's so lucky that you just didn't pass out and fucking drown. So I think that's kind of the way it's kind of neat little way of looking at it. I enjoy it. I think that it's a trial, so I think that Link is put into kind of like a, do you survive this thing? And the Windfish either saves you or he kind of lets you stay in your dream world, aka you die.
Okay, cool. Now there is another reference. So there is a big weird flying fish god thing in Skyward Sword that I remember seeing, and like, this is definitely just... and I think they are saying, oh, it's like the same species, or maybe he's the same character. But yeah, definitely, that's a thing maybe you should look up. Or if you ever play Skyward Sword, remember the Windfish. And you're going to be like, it's weird. It's just the same guy. Yeah. Anything you want to touch upon from a timeline point of view at this point? Familiarized with the timeline, are we?
Yes, because this comes after Link to the Past. Because after Link to the Past, he leaves Hyrule and goes on a sea voyage, and this is where this picks up. So my only question is, are there other people on his ship? And is he the only survivor, or was it only him on the ship?
I don't know.
Right? Did everybody on that ship? Because it's a pretty decent sized ship, at least I think it is, or is it a smaller ship? I don't know.
All right, well, this is it. It's been a while since we played a Zelda Battle Royale game. It's the Battle Royale, Who's the Best Link? That's the game we're about to play. It's pretty exciting here. So, see this up, sorry. Okay, I think that's a good one. All right, so we've got 3 combatants. All right, we have a 3-way matchup. So we have Zelda 2, which is basically Zelda 1 and Zelda 2's Link, versus A Link to the Past versus Link from A Link to the Awakening. All right.
Yep.
So I've broken it down into 5 categories. We're gonna see who gets one of each, try and do a better job counting than we did last time, and see if we have an actual winner this time. So, attack power. Zelda 2's max attack power is 32. A Link to the Past is 8. And A Link's Awakening starts off at base 4, and it goes 16 at full power. Yep. So that's including the red tunic, the level 2 sword, the piece of power. I never talked about the piece of power, Guardian Acorns. And that'll be 16. So I would say definitively Zelda 2's attack power at 32 is the winner. So I'm going to give one to him.
Hold on. This might be a tie, actually, because he starts at 4. And the red tunic times his power, so 8.
8.
And then with the sword...
So with level 2 sword, he gets 16.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. And then he gets to 32 because with the piece of power and the spin attack, he'd actually be stronger than that.
Yeah. So I think we actually have to give it to Link's Awakening on this one.
Link's Awakening. All right. Link's Awakening. Ding!
Wow.
Zelda 2, max health. He has 64 health. Link to the Past has... And Link's Awakening has 56 at full power. So that's including the 14 heart pieces plus the tunic plus the Guardian Acorn.
Gotcha.
So without a doubt, I would say A Link to the Past. Ding!
Yes.
All right. Magic. Zelda 2 has a fire spell, a screen nuke. Link to the Past has 2 magical rods and 3 medallions. A Link to the Past has an infinite magic rod. A Link to the Past?
Yeah, or I think we called this one a tie with Zelda 2 and Link to the Past, because Link to the Past doesn't really have a nuke spell, whereas Zelda 2 does. So I think we called this one a tie.
So A Link's Awakening has 1,
yeah.
Link to the Past has 2, Zelda 2 has 1.
Yes.
2 categories left. All right. Agility. Link 2 has Jump Spell and Fairy Spell. A Link to the Past has the Pegasus and moves sideways. A Link's Awakening has Rock's Feathers, so he can jump, Pegasus Boots, and he has sideways movements. So are we also giving this one to A Link's Awakening?
I think so.
All right. Well, Link's Awakening, you have a 1, 2, 2, and 1.
Yep.
Zelda 2 is not looking so good this time we go around. All right?
Yes.
So, experience. Zelda 2 has 16 dungeons under his belt. A Link to the Past has 11 dungeons. And A Link's Awakening has 10 dungeons. That means Zelda 2 gets the final point, which means we have a 2-2 3-way tie.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Shit. I was kind of like, that's kind of what I was laughing at when I was like looking at it. I'm like, shit, well, Link's Awakening wins the fucking agility one, and then Zelda 2 wins experience. And they're like, we just got a 2-2-2. Son of a...
Oh,
Unless...
hold the phone.
Unless,
Stop it, you crooked guests. Yes, Tyson, what were you about to say?
I think Link's Awakening and Links to the Past... Well, I think a Link's Awakening experience has to include Links to the Past, because it comes directly after it, does it not?
Fuck yeah, it does.
So he's actually at 21, making our new winner Link's Awakening.
You basically have to merge a Link to the Past and a Link's Awakening. So by timeline lore, Link's Awakening and Link to the Past are the same Link, meaning they are the most powerful Link thus far.
Yep. Wow. We actually got a winner out of this.
I specifically set up the contest for that reason.
Okay, nice.
Just to see if you would clue in, because I was like, accept that they're the same characters.
Yeah, and I was kind of thinking with them, like, are we going to accept that? I'm like, we have to. We absolutely have to. We gave Zelda 2 the 16 dungeons because it was 8 and 8, so Link to the Past was a new Link. Now, Link's Awakening, same Link, twice as much experience, new winner.
Now, the one screwy thing, though, is I'm pretty sure it goes Link to the Past, and then he goes on his adventures in Holdrum, so the Oracle games, and then he goes into this adventure. So there's one Link who's been in 4 games.
Oh.
I think it's going to be really tough to beat this guy.
Yeah. So unless somebody gets some, like, I don't think anyone's going to take the experience away from him. So maybe if somebody can beat him either in attack, magic, defense, or agility, it's going to be tough to beat.
So it's kind of neat, though. It's basically, at the end of the day, Links are all pretty... Yeah. Even though this was like one of the greatest wars I ever had on the...
Doing the math, awesome. The timeline helps.
Awesome. So we have a champion. There you go. Link to the Past and a Link's Awakening. We should come up with a name. We should call them the hero of something. The hero...
Chancellor Link.
Royal... Chancellor Link is the winner. Chancellor Mick, Chancellor Tyson, Chancellor Mick. We're going to go have a beer after this. Have a good time. I think we've been talking enough time here. Tyson, did we miss anything?
Actually, I think we covered this pretty thoroughly.
Cool. I like when we get to those like definitive, like, I think we did a good job today. I agree. I also think we did a good job. And let's end in closing, and we will see you crazy kids next time. Next game is going to Donkey Kong or Metal Gear Solid.
Either one.
Those games will probably be recorded at the same time, so you'll get one or the other. I don't have any updates on you on the Marvel contest.
Okay.
I might be recording this before the contest is announced. Hopefully, someone responds back. Other than that, yeah.
Cool.
Good show. All right, so thanks for listening. You can contact Podtendo on Twitter at Podtendo Podcast, email us at podtendo@gmail.com, or check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Podtendo. The music of Podtendo was used without permission and is property of Nintendo.